Hi folks, well, at LR Workshop. So when I bought this Defender, it came with one key, and that key worked in the ignition, it worked in the driver's door, it worked in the back door, but it didn't work in the passenger door over there, which was really curious. Really frustrating as well, having to get the in and out, unlock and lock the vehicle from the inside, and that door lock is knackered on the inside as well, so very frustrating. I had to remove the door card when I was in Armenia just to be able to use the door. But how did I find a key for an unknown door lock? I'm going to talk about the strategy I use. It won't work in every situation, but I'm quite pleased with myself actually, and it did work in the end. So stick around for that one. So that door has been an absolute pain, to be honest, because the kids have to sit in the front because there's only one seat in the back. So then I've got to come around here, reach over, and I've got my son's car seat. It blocks the thing, and I just can't get that door open, unlocked. It's a pain in the ass. So the standard route is, how do you find out, matching a key that's missing, which I did have to do this with this one. It came with one key and I bought a replacement key. That's quite easy. You can it did actually come with the key code on the key ring, came with the vehicle when it's new. And if you don't have that, there are services online which you can send a photo of the key and they will decipher what the key code is based on the contours, the ridge lines in your key. So you can actually get a replacement key if you already have a key. That's quite handy. The problem over there is I've got a door lock and I don't know which door key goes in the door lock. That one's more tricky. So options I was thinking of, just wipe the slate clean, get a new set of locks for the ignition, the rear door and that door, and just replace the lot. And then I've got a key for everything. But the ignition's a massive pain. You've got the shear bolts in there to change, and that's a real pain, to be honest. So I wanted to avoid that if at all possible. My backup option was getting another key and door lock and just fitting in there and having two keys for that door. That was basically the backup option. However, things got a bit interesting when I was working on the back door. So I replaced this door lock last year with a brand new one, a genuine one. So you can quite easily take the door lock out of the old one and put it in the new one, so the key works in here. So I did a video. It's all really about what was under here, so I took this off and washed underneath. So I did a video about the front center console and found a number on that. You can go and see that video linked, but basically understanding what that number was, and it's the last part of the VIN number. This door had the last part of the VIN number on it as well, matching with the one on the front. Unfortunately, that got washed off. It was just a bit of marker pen. I've lost it now. Anyway, what's really interesting, that front door, once I've taken the door card off, has got a different number than this door and the center console. So that door is from a different vehicle. It's been replaced. The digits on that door were the last digits of a VIN number of another Defender in this fleet. These vehicles, I have the export documents, or the kind of record of how they went overseas and a bit of a list of their configuration. Also, from those export documents, I had the original key number, because you imagine if you're shipping vehicles overseas, and this one went out with a bunch of other vehicles at the same time. When you're shipping vehicles, you've got a whole bunch of keys. You don't want the keys to get lost. You need to match the key back to the vehicle. So they actually keep a record in the shipping documents of which keys are on which. So the key number, I had the key number written down for that VIN number. So I bought a second key, using that key code. It's about 30 quid to get a key. It's been a bit of a gamble knowing whether that VIN number and that key code still match, and knowing whether that door lock had never been replaced on that vehicle or even on this vehicle at some point. So let's go and try it. It's a bit tight. That's to go in all the way. And then last click. And it actually unlocks. What was that? That's a snail just popped out. But it does lock. To prove it works. So that worked in my situation because I had the key code for the door from that vehicle and I had the VIN for, and I bought the key and it's now working, which is great. So basically, if you've got a vehicle and you haven't got a key for the locks, then you can use the VIN number, and there are ways of finding the key code using the VIN number. That's assuming the door locks haven't been changed. I'm not going to explain exactly how you can use a VIN number to decode or get the key code from that. There are ways of doing it, and if you put your mind to it, I think you can understand that, but I think it's a bit of a security loophole if I was to explain to you right now the easy way of doing it. And it's not that expensive, to be honest. But you can put your mind to it, you can figure out a way of doing that, I'm sure, just by doing some Googling. But yeah, I was quite pleased with that. The other option is look at go and look at the code that's written on the door, and if the door lock's not working, then it might give you an indication of whether it's an original door for that vehicle or not, which in this case it wasn't. I was thinking I was going to have to replace all the door locks and everything just so I can have one key. As it turns out, I've ended up with 2 keys on the door, which I don't mind. I know that the old one is this one, and the newer key is just for that door. I'm happy with that solution. Keeps a bit of its originality. It's quite interesting why that door has been changed. I can't work out why. This is a damaged door, right? And the other, I know I've got photos of the vehicle this came off, which is a later vehicle. It's a couple hundred vehicles later than this one. It's a really interesting bit of damage, this, because it's got that's been pushed, looks like it's been pushed back. It's got a crack on it, actually, and it's got a bit of damage here. So it's like it's hit a pole or the door's swung into something like that. But there's no damage. There's a bit of an indentation there, but there's no other damage. And then we've got damage here where it's swung open onto the snorkel when it was fitted. But I've seen the photos of this vehicle. So these 2 vehicles got separated in about 2018 to 2020. I've seen photos of the other one since, and that's got a good door on here. So why would you swap the doors and put a bad one on this vehicle, which is otherwise a pretty good vehicle, and then when the other vehicle is still pretty good all the way around? I don't quite understand that. Why you would swap the doors over? Fair enough, one got damaged, but why would you swap the doors? The only thing I could think of is you were just trying to create a nicer vehicle, take all the damaged bits off one vehicle and put all the good bits from lots of vehicles onto one vehicle, and then you've got a good vehicle. But I don't understand that, because the other vehicle was quite good and this one's quite good in general. So it's just basically a door swap. The other thing is, why did this live in its operational life having different door locks? Why did that not matter? Why was that not a pain in the arse, and why was it not solved for the people using this vehicle? Well, this vehicle's an ambulance. Its role was an ambulance, and it was part of a fleet, so it lived in a compound. If it wasn't out on site, out and about, basically sitting, waiting to be an ambulance, if it needed to be an ambulance for an evacuation or what have you, thereby it had a driver. It was in a compound. So compound vehicles don't tend to get locked because the security of the vehicles is the compound security guards and what have you. There's other protocols. The keys don't sit with the vehicle in those situations, but they're generally left unlocked, just so it's less of a faff. Particularly with these, you don't have central locking, so it's less of a faff for people to jump in there. All the doors are basically just left open. So if that one doesn't get locked, it's not a big deal. It doesn't actually matter that you don't have the key. The other situation is when this is sat at site, when it's waiting to be an ambulance. What happens is that these vehicles, during the working day, when they're out doing what they need to do, they're sat with the key in the ignition. Because if you can imagine, you've got to do an evacuation with a casualty. You don't want people to be running around trying to find the key to stick that in the ignition. So these vehicles sit with the key in the ignition and all the doors unlocked during their working day. Because there's always that scenario you've got to think about, is everyone's running around screaming, who's got the key, who's got the key? And it might actually be the driver who's the casualty, who's unconscious, who has the key, but isn't obviously responding. So it's sort of little stuff like that where, those are the protocols that kind of ran these vehicles. And that's why the door lock wasn't an issue, because they never locked the door, because they never had to. And actually it was part of the operating procedures that you didn't lock the door. So it's only really when I bought it that it became a problem, and I've had to try and solve this. Anyway, that's another thing ticked off the list. That's good. Makes it a bit more of a usable vehicle. I do have to fix the crack, so it's cracked on the inside. I will have to fix that and fix all the door lock and on the inside and put the door card back on, but that's another project. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.